Anyone has someone in Australia, pray for Australians. Pray for Australia. Australia. If you have somebody in Australia, pray for Australia. Why natural disaster? Natural disaster. What is this? What is this natural disaster? Pray against violence. Pray against natural disaster. All these things will happen. You will see it on the news, CNN, you will see it.
Emergency support is being sent to remote parts of Australia's northwest, which are experiencing record flooding. It's said to be the state of Western Australia's worst ever flooding event, causing swathes of land to become an inland ocean. You can see this from these incredible pictures here. Many remote communities are currently cut off and relief supplies are being flown in. Huge livestock losses are also expected. We've seen the Australian Prime Minister visiting one remote town, Fitzroy Crossing.
We've seen massive infrastructure damage. We've seen people who have lost just about everything as a result of this 1 in 100 year flood.
Prime Minister there, but let's take you live now to the town of Kununurra in Western Australia's far north. Ted O'Connor is a reporter for ABC News Australia who has been covering the flood crisis. Ted, thanks so much for joining us. Has there been an issue trying to reach remote communities? Do we know exactly what is going on across this whole area that's been hit by floods?
Yes, that has been the most crucial issue, because when the Fitzroy River flooded, it essentially, when the floodwaters encircled Fitzroy Crossing and cut off that town, and as the floodwaters surged down the Fitzroy River, they cut off more communities, and then the rainfall from ex-tropical cyclone ended up cutting off the entire West Kimberley. And so to give you an idea, the Kimberley region is 3 times the size of the UK. So you've essentially got half the Kimberley completely cut off and can only be accessed by helicopter or plane. So it's just an incredibly huge logistical effort to get food and medical supplies and essential goods into people who are stuck in these areas. That's why the Army is being called in, the ADF. They've been getting specialist military planes. One of the huge problems was there was water all over the Fitzroy Crossing runway. So people were really concerned initially if enough food would come in. So when you have a disaster like this in one of the most remote parts of Australia, there's just so many compounding problems that make it really difficult for emergency services to access those people on the ground who fled their homes.
And Ted, is this particularly affecting any Indigenous communities?
Yes, so the Kimberley region is very heavily populated by Indigenous communities. There is hundreds of Indigenous communities scattered throughout the Kimberley. Many of them are affected by the flooding. And this can take a real, this can take a really big toll on people who, some of them haven't left their community their entire lives. They have a deep cultural connection to the land. And to have to leave this land and go away in a helicopter or a plane to somewhere that they haven't been before can be really quite a distressing moment. The other big difficulty this region's facing is there is only one sealed highway through the entire Kimberley, which from a UK context would seem incredible, but this highway is now left in ruins. So family members who have really close connections can't visit each other by road anymore. And around Fitzroy Crossing, there's all sorts of cultural and language groups, Bunabar, Walmajari, Kukajar, and just a few Gunyandi, Jaru, just to name a few. And there is a lot of people who move in between those communities. And now that they're isolated, it's going to be really heartbreaking for family members, especially when those family connections run really deep in Indigenous communities.
Ted, thank you so much for joining us.